Welcome back to the show that dares to answer the question, what in the world is going on, by interpreting current events in the light of Christian prophecy. Currently, we are in the midst of a Marxist insurgency, and the communists are trying to bring down our government. But to do so, they need to ensure as little as possible resistance from loyal Americans. They don't want you to complain. They want you to submit. So is how began the extermination of our culture. America had to be recast as bad from her inception, to shame you if you have any pride in our history or tradition, to silence you, to immobilize you, while they strap the chains of tyranny upon us by removing and limiting our freedoms one by one. One aspect of this process is the attack on our religious freedom. Americans for over 200 years have believed that our nation was founded on Christian principles and that Divine Providence had a hand in the formation of America. But they don't want religious people to revere anything about America, not even its founding. So the Marxists and their puppets and minions tell us this isn't true. One of their puppets, a past president, said in a speech that we have always been a Muslim country. This is the same guy, though, that told us if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. So if you like your religion, don't count on keeping it. When he said about 8 years ago that we were always a Muslim country, everyone laughed. How ridiculous. They were telling us, though, their future plans for us. Look at America today. Can you begin to see how this evil plan is closer to being fulfilled? Our churches are closed. Easter was canceled. Will we be able to celebrate Christmas this year? They already canceled the Rose Parade for 2021. That's right, 2021. The mask wearing is more a symbol of submission and compliance. Are we being trained to accept head coverings? So were we really founded as a Christian nation under Divine Providence? Let's take another look at George Washington and where America was on the night of December 24th, 1777. At this point, Washington had not one victory under his belt. He hadn't even won a skirmish. The Continental Congress was turning a deaf ear to his pleas for more funds, and his ragtag, untrained army was no match for the sophisticated British troops. His men were malnourished and suffering from frostbite. They were ill-clad, and many cut strips of bark from birch trees to place in their worn boots. Washington retired to his tent beleaguered by doubts. Then he had his famous vision, which we covered in the last video. He went from a man who did not know what to do to a man who knew exactly what to do, and nothing could stop him. What caused this change? Faith. He believed that God had given him this vision, with its inherent promise of a great nation to follow. How do we know he had this faith in God? Because of the actions that he took. He immediately made plans to break camp and take to the boats and cross the Delaware. His faith in God was enormous. America was the underdog, yet he never hesitated. The fact that he had this vision gave him what he needed to continue on. He had this pitiful army, and it never ceases to amaze me, the steadfastness and confidence he displayed going forward to engage the Hessians. Tell me now, is he a man of faith? I'll show you his actions and prove it to you. Did God have a hand in the founding of our nation? Was it really part of God's plan, or just a lucky accident? The answer is right there in our history, the vision. God sent an angel to deliver a special message at the exact time that Washington is trying to decide whether or not to throw in the towel. The encouragement and the boost he needed was given by an angel in this vision for the future of a great nation. Since God knows all things, he knows that Washington will understand that it is in his hands to trust that God will keep his promise if he moves forward in faith. If that isn't enough, there is a direct act of divine intervention. Come on, you don't think our guys beat those well-trained, well-fed Hessians without God's help, do you? God is so awesome. Think about it. He calls our men to arms to battle on Christmas morning when he knows how drunk the Germans would be. He sort of evened things up a bit, don't you think? Sort of stacked the deck in our favor. It's important in times like these, when we are fighting a communist insurgency, that we remember who we are as a people and how we came to be. We are a Judeo-Christian nation founded by Divine Providence. This is why America's enemies want to destroy our history and make you ashamed of it. Now a word from our sponsor, God. We have mentioned faith and action, or works, as the scriptures refer to them. Let's see what God says about this, because non-Catholic Christians and Catholics often disagree about the relationship between faith and works. We're going to go to King James Version, Ephesians 2, verse 8 and 9. For by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. All right, that seems to say that works have nothing to do with it. Okay, now let's go to the book of James in the New International Version, chapter 2, verse 14, and then we'll do verse 17 and 18. What good is it, my brothers, if a man claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save him? Verse 17 and 18. In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. But someone will say, you have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by what I do. Now, these verses from the book of James seem to show a very intimate relationship between faith and works. Let's think about that, and we'll talk more about it towards the end of the video. At this time in our country, Marxist leftists are pushing hard for mandatory mask order. Each state is different. In Florida, our governor did not go along with it. Our mayor did, but he left an exemption. I apply this exemption to myself. Why do Marxists want us wearing masks? One, they want to keep up the fear so that they can push for the mail-in voting. Two, it's to instill programming. Use of fear is the strongest tool for programming and brainwashing, to get you to follow orders and comply to the dictates of the New World Order. 3, prisoners continue being released by Democrat governors in droves. 18,000 prisoners are due to be released in California by Governor Newsom. They are the soldiers for the Civil War. The Civil War what's already going on basically is a civil war, but it has not reached a crescendo, not according to their plans yet. So this civil war is part of the evil plan. I'm not saying it will reach that crescendo or not. I'm saying this is part of the evil plan, and they want these prisoners out there as their soldiers, and they don't want you to be able to tell the good guys from the bad guys. Okay. My husband and I, we don't wear masks. So every so often we get harassed by the mask Nazis. And we fight back. So every so often, we'll run into one of these mask meanies, and it would be great if we could have a rational discussion. Like, you tell me why you want to wear a mask, and I'll tell you why we don't want to wear a mask. But you cannot rationalize with these people. People who are brainwashed cannot be reasoned with. It's a total waste of time. I usually still try for about 1 or 2 seconds, and if they just keep talking over me and are not listening, then I don't use reason. Now, you have to first decide if this person is the enemy or not. Let me give you an example. I'm going to give you some personal examples from our life. Okay, where we go frequently to get coffee, a man started harassing us as we were getting in the car because he saw us come out of the building without wearing masks. My husband started to get upset. I told him, please just stay back, William. Let me handle it. All right. And I begin by telling the man, look, the law says we aren't required to. Blah, 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 blah. He's talking right over. But this man was so passionate, so insistent, telling me about how his grandchild was tested 3 times and something. He was so concerned, and he got in his truck and he opened up a fresh plastic bag of masks, handed me one and said, I wish you would wear this unless you have a death wish. How could I get mad at that guy? He was trying to save my life. He was truly concerned for me. You could see it written all over his face. You could hear it in his tone. This is not an evil man. This man is a victim, a pitiful victim. He's hiding and locked behind this mask out of sheer terror and trying to save my life, thinking I'm not aware of what's going on. Now here's example number 2. This person I'm going to tell you about is a conscious member of the left. All right. My husband and I are waiting in line at the McDonald's. And he comes up and calls out to my husband in line saying, "Where's your mask, you bum?" Now, this is how I handled it while my husband was paying the bill. Don't talk to my husband like that. He's a Vietnam veteran. And I can sure tell you're not a veteran. I am too. He says, I was in the army. Which one? The Chinese Communist Army? Go home and read the law. Read the law, I said. There's an exemption. Perhaps you can't read that word because it has more than 4 letters in it. Go home and have your mommy read it to you, you commie. Okay, I understand. It's probably a little strong for most of you. But did you miss the part about we are in a war to save our nation? To save our freedoms? But you might want to start out a lot milder. I understand that not everybody was raised in the inner city in Detroit, as I was. You might say my verbal skills were honed in the ghetto, and they served me well. Now, and I understand that some people wouldn't be attracted to that, but they are using something called public shaming to get you to conform. And what you must do, one of the greatest tools, is to engage in public shaming back. I understand it's risky, but we are fighting a war for our freedoms. There are always risks in any war, in any confrontation. Now, in the neighborhood where I came from, it was necessary to develop those kind of verbal skills. I'm sure that, we had some pretty great people coming from my neighborhood, so I don't want you to think it was just, terribly bad. I mean, Dr. Ben Carson came from the same neighborhood, and I don't think he did that bad. World-renowned neurosurgeon, director of HUD, and America First policy man all the way. And we also had some holiness grow in my neighborhood. Have you ever seen like broken concrete and this little green thing comes up and then a beautiful little flower comes at the end of it? Yes, we have a almost soon to be saint, Father Solanus. He's Blessed Father Solanus. And yes, he came from my neighborhood also. Me, the jury is still out. Check back later. Anyway, you have to decide for yourself if you're going to take a stand and decide what you're comfortable doing. I was just sharing some intimate details of our life with you to get you thinking about it and to get you looking at the possibilities of what you might do to take a stand. Now, when we went to our Walmart about 3 weeks ago, when our mayor put out his mandatory mask edict, the one with the exemption that said, except if you have breathing problems. When we went to our Walmart the next day here in Jacksonville, Florida, they had these huge signs. They were made out of thick vinyl. They must have cost a couple $100 each to make. And it said you must wear a mask to go in here according to the state and local ordinances. And while I sat in the car, my husband went in and was stopped by the greeter. He came back to the car furious to get his mask. I called the manager, the general manager. I won't say his name. I don't want to give away which Walmart. But his first name was Matt. And I said, I'm sitting out here in the car looking at your sign, and it says according to state and local ordinances. I said, do you realize that is not true? And before I could finish, the man was very nervous. But, ma'am, we're not forcing it. I said, well, your greeter just stopped my husband at the door. Oh, she did? How'd she look? We described her. He said, I'll go talk to her right now. No. She is not supposed to tell anyone or make any comments about whether or not they have a mask. I said, thank you very much, sir. Now my husband comes and goes to our Walmart in Jacksonville, Florida, without any problems. The sad thing is that I sit in the car and watch all these people going in. They're like little wound-up robots. They put their mask on, and they just walk in. None of them thinks to challenge anyone. Not one of them thinks to challenge anyone. Now let me tell you what happened when we went to the McDonald's that's inside the Walmart. My husband got up to the cash register, and the employee said, I'm not waiting on you unless you go out and get a mask. Again, my husband came to the car, furious. I called the manager, who was in the back, not paying attention. She assured me that she would take care of it. In fact, said, come back tomorrow and I'll give you free breakfast sandwiches. And she said these words. Listen carefully. She said, we are not allowed to refuse service to anyone, whether they're wearing a mask or not. Wow. Yes, it's the same reason the Walmart manager backed down. It's because of the ADA law and the exemption that the mayor, a good Republican, left us in his ordinance. If you have breathing problems. And according to the ADA law, from what I've been told, they're not allowed to ask you They can't say, well, what kind of breathing problem do you have? Do you have asthma or emphysema? That's your private medical history. So it's up to you to decide. Well, you might say, I don't have any breathing problems. Well, that's your choice. But as a Catholic, I say I do. I use mental reservation. Look it up in your catechism. These are extreme times. It means I let our Lord know why I'm doing this. It's not frivolous, because otherwise we may never get to go to communion again. Okay? And then I tell them, if they ask, I have breathing problems. I don't let them know it's because every time I get around communist, fascist tyranny, I break out in hives, but the law covers me. I'm not telling you to do this. I said again, I'm letting you know some intimate details of our life to get you started thinking. Do you just easily give in to this tyranny? Then what do you think is next in line? Look at how easy it was for me to simply call and talk nicely to the manager, and they both immediately backed down, and the McDonald's manager apologized. Don't just give in so easily. Surely you could make a call. We all need to confront the word fear. Let us recall the sacrifices of the Revolutionary soldiers, the frostbite, loss of limbs, the hunger. The men of World War II who ran up the cliff at Normandy, using their bodies to literally catch the bullets so the men behind them could make it up the cliff to the nests of the German machine gunners. The men and women of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, who live presently without limbs due to the IEDs. Again, we need to ask ourselves, are we willing to give up so easily that which was bought for so dear a price? When things get bad enough in this country, everyone will stand, will resist, and will fight. The question is, will it be too late? Remember George Washington. If he doubted the message of the angel that was sent by God and decided to mull it over even a while, even for one day, what would have happened? Well, George Washington was British, and the British celebrate Christmas on Christmas Day. Remember Charles Dickens and the Christmas Carol? But Europeans celebrate on Christmas Eve. That's when the heavy eating and the heavy drinking continues into the wee hours of the morning. That's why we have midnight mass, because it isn't too likely anyone's getting up early Sunday morning on Christmas. And God knew this. Washington probably was unaware. If anyone doubts that our nation was founded by divine intervention and an act of faith, let him ponder these things. First, a mention of fear. Did you know that the antidote for fear is faith? I didn't make that up. I'm not that clever. The scripture shows us this. Remember when the apostles were in the boat with Jesus and a great storm arose? They were afraid. Jesus said, "O ye of little faith." So faith can grow. It can develop. And our dear apostles at that time were about 1.5 pounds short. Thank God that George Washington was a man of immense faith in his Creator. He had no fear. The painting showing him crossing the Delaware which was based on accounts from those who were there, shows him standing tall, facing forward in the bow of the ship, or the Durham boats, as Q has told us they were called, never looking back. We know he was a man of immense faith and vision because he took immediate action. If he had doubted, and doubt is a milder form of fear, even for one day, giving the Hessians time to sober up and get over their hangovers, would there even be an America today? The angel's last words in the vision to George Washington were, "Let every child of the Republic learn to live for God, His land, and the Union." So we, as Americans, have been exhorted by an angel to protect and cherish this nation. Next, in Episode 3, we will move to the discussion of the chastisement, for this is the time spiritually that we find ourselves in. This is what prophecy tells us. There will also be scenes from the movie For the Greater Glory. Oh, this is a must-see for all Americans. If you do not see the connection between the things taking place in our country now and what this movie historically shows you took place in Mexico just back in the 1920s, then you are in denial. And I don't mean Egypt. Also, there's a song for our times to illustrate the points in this episode. Hope you enjoy. See you next episode.
Be sure and hit like and subscribe if you found this discussion interesting and you would like to receive notifications to the remaining episodes in this series. The video you're about to watch is the trailer to the YouTube movie For Greater Glory. A link is provided in the description box below if you would like to watch the entire movie. After the movie, the prophecy lady will sing her rendition of Let Liberty Shine. And now sit back, relax, and enjoy the trailer.
Our nation is under siege. A plot to poison the minds and hearts of our people.
The Federalists are coming! They're coming!
We must stand up and resist.
All you have is belief.
And dignity.
And found inspiration.
Why are you here?
We want to be cristeros, mi general.
Today we're going to send a message. Freedom is our home, our wives, our children, and we will defend it or die trying. Que viva Cristo Rey!
Stand up for what you believe.
Rip off that mask and put a smile on your face. It's not a shame. No, it's not a disgrace. Just one little smile could light up the whole place, and liberty would shine throughout our land. Let liberty shine, let liberty shine, let liberty shine throughout our land. So come on, everybody, give us a hand. Let's make America smile again. So come on, everybody, give us a hand. Let's make America, let's make America, let's make America smile again.